You know the saying that the sequel is never as good as the original? Well, that statement is BS. It's not always true. Especially in gaming. Usually the sequels try to improve and fixes the problems that the originals had. Of course, that's not always the case. Sometimes they can crash and burn until it eventually falls into obscurity. But usually when developers want to create a sequel, they think, how can we make this better? And when it comes to classic Sonic, oh, they definitely made it better. Sonic 2 is one of the most successful video game sequels of all time. It became the best-selling Sonic game, and it surpasses the original Sonic 1 in almost every way. It was released worldwide on November 24th, 1992 on a Tuesday. It was dubbed Sonic Tuesday. This release was unprecedented at the time. It probably even started the trend of most big video games releasing on this day that's not from Nintendo. So why does this game hold such significance over all these years? Well, let's find out and see why I think this may be my favorite 2D Sonic game of all time. This is Sonic 2. This game was aimed to be faster and more ambitious compared to the original, and oh boy, they definitely accomplished that. Unlike its predecessor, this game was developed in Sega of America under the newly established Sega Technical Institute in California. Their mission was to develop more games in the West. Yuji Naka joined the initiative after he quit the Japanese division over disagreements over his salary and dissatisfaction with the company. However, development was pretty rocky. The team only had 11 months to develop this game, and due to having a team of both American and Japanese developers, there was cultural and language barriers that may have impacted the final product. There were tons of levels and ideas that didn't make it to the final game, but I'll get to that later on. So let's start the game. I'll be playing the Sega Ages version on Nintendo Switch. I just love the HD rumble this port has. You can actually feel when Sonic uses his spin dash. Though I do recommend the Christian Whitehead ports on mobile. It runs really well, and it adds a good amount of content. After the events of the first game, Sonic decided to travel around the world searching for his next adventure. He used his biplane called the Tornado and traveled to the West Side Island. Legends say that the people inhabited by this island used mysterious and powerful stones to achieve prosperity. Though due to the presence of those who tried to use these stones for nefarious purposes, the stones were taken and sealed away. After a few days, Sonic realized that he was followed by a certain two-tailed fox. His name is Miles Prower, though everyone always referred to him as Tails. Sega wanted to introduce a new character that would not only be a companion to Sonic, but also wanted to make him playable and draw attention to a bigger audience to introduce new players. There was an internal competition held in Sega of America to determine what his design should be, one of which was a turtle named Boomer. Okay, Boomer. Ultimately, they chose the two-tailed orange fox that we know and love today. Though I feel like Sega changes his fur a lot. Like he looks yellow in certain games, orange in others, and even dark brown in Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog. There were rumors that he was originally supposed to be a girl, but this was never the case, according to his creator. Anyway, Tails had stumbled across Sonic's plane. He was enthralled by it due to his fascination in machinery. Suddenly, Eggman had detected the presence of the Chaos Emeralds in this area and decided to wreak havoc and kidnap the animals on the island. Sonic heads his way to stop him while Tails closely follows him. As we start the game, if you head to the options menu, you can have the option to play as Sonic and Tails alone or playing as a duo. They both play the same. Tails doesn't have his flight ability, so it doesn't really matter what you choose. Though there are benefits and downsides if you decide to play by yourself or together as a team. If you play as both Sonic and Tails, then you can have a buddy play as player 2 and control Tails so he can help you defeat enemies or bosses and collect rings in special stages. However, that can bite you in the butt if you're not careful as well, but I'll get into that later. Gameplay wise, this plays exactly like Sonic 1, except Sonic has gained a new move called the Spin Dash. This allows you to rev up and gain a burst of speed. There are special stages here as well, but the method to enter one is slightly different compared to the original. If you pass a checkpoint with at least 50 rings, then you can jump into these sparkles to enter the special stage. And oh my goodness, this is definitely one of the hardest special stages in the franchise. Sonic has to travel through this half pipe, collecting as much rings as he can in order to grab the Chaos Emerald. This trope has been reused many times. It's been used in games like the Saturn version of 3D Blast, Pocket Adventure, Rush, Colors, and Sonic 4 Episode 2. I'm getting tired of going through these a lot, honestly. The main issue is that it's so easy to lose your rings in here, especially if you have Tails with you. I mean, Tails can collect the rings you've missed since he follows right behind you, but he can easily mess you up if you're not careful. For this reason, I always prefer doing these stages with only one character. Unlike its predecessor, this game actually has 7 Chaos Emeralds as opposed to 6. And if you gather them all up and collect at least 50 rings, then you'll be able to use Super Sonic. He's really fast, invincible, and can easily break the game. Though I don't like how he instantly activates it as soon as you jump if you have at least 50 rings. I prefer how it is in other games when he has to double press a button or something. I love his theme song in this game, but it can get really repetitive after a while. Honestly, as a huge fan of Dragon Ball, I find this form really cool. It may have gotten inspiration from Goku's Super Saiyan transformation since it debuted in April of 1991 in the manga. Though the Dragon Ball series didn't come out in the West until much later, so I'd imagine plenty of Americans would be confused on Sonic's golden transformation. Whatever the case, it's still cool. Too bad I couldn't unlock him as a kid. These special stages can be a huge pain in the butt. Now that we got the basic mechanics down, let's take a look at some of the zones that this game has to offer. The first level that we start with is Emerald Hill Zone, or not Green Hill Zone. Similarities aside, I honestly prefer this zone. I like its level design and music more than Green Hill. It had introduced these iconic corkscrews that's been used in future games. The name of the zone is derived from the town Emerald Hill from San Francisco. You can actually get all 7 Chaos Emeralds before completing this zone. There are enough checkpoints between both acts to do so. And yes, there are only 2 acts this time, unlike in Sonic 1, which only had 3. Overall, probably one of my favorite first levels in a Sonic game, even though it's really short. That's what I like about this game though, short and straight to the point. Next up is Chemical Plant Zone, another level that Sega loves to bring back. It's like the 3rd most reused zone in the franchise, though it's a really memorable level for a reason. You can go so fast in here, it's really fun to blast through it, until you get towards the end of Act 2, where you can drown in this purple liquid called Megamech. Sounds like a rejected Mega Man name. There are a few unused assets, such as this decorative object, or this animation of Eggman accidentally dropping the Megamech to himself. I had so much trouble getting through this level as a kid. I had to ask my mom to help me get through it. But it's not that bad if you take your time and you know what you're doing. Though I should probably ask my mom for help again, just in case. Up next is Aquatic Ruin. In the game's prototype, this was actually the first level. It was referred to as Neo Green Hill Zone. Even though it's a water level, it's actually not that bad. You can avoid the water section if you stay the top path, and you can actually go fast here, unlike certain other water zones. However, this zone emphasizes one of my main complaints of this game. As much as I love the level design, I can admit that the enemy placement in certain areas of these zones are straight up unfair. It feels like you'll get hit no matter what, unless you remember the level by heart. It's not as bad here, but oh boy, there's a zone later on that takes this to the extreme. After the ruins, we go gambling to Casino Night Zone. This is probably my favorite level in this game, and it's not because of the gambling. Okay, maybe that's part of the reason. It's just so fun trying to win tons of rings. No! I actually really enjoy the pinball mechanics here, and it's not always in your face or feel impossible like it does in Sonic Spinball. In the prototype, this level was actually slightly different. I honestly like the way this looks, though I do love how the final version came out. I've always had trouble with this boss when I was younger, but Super Sonic makes this a joke, just like every other boss in this game. Oh well. Back to gambling. After we gambled all our money away, we head our way to Hilltop Zone. This zone reuses a lot of assets from Emerald Hill Zone. I mean, look at it. They look so similar, except it's bluer and has lava in it. Probably the weakest zone in this game in my opinion. It's not the most interesting one out there, and I'm not really much of a fan of its music. Strangely, the game did crash on me when I tried using Super Sonic in this boss fight, though he's still a joke even if you don't use his super form. After this, we have Mystic Cave Zone. I really like this zone. The music is great and I love the way it looks. It's home to one of the game's deadliest traps, the dreaded Spike Pit. If you're not careful and if you fall into this particular pit, then there's no escape. You'll just die here slowly until your rings are gone if you're using Super Sonic. Although, there is a neat Easter egg if you fall down here in the mobile version, but I'll get to that in a bit. In the game's prototype, this is actually referred to as Dust Hill Zone in the level select. There was also supposed to be these unused platforms made of rings in the level, though you can only access this through debug mode. They act similar to the spinning spike balls that you've seen in the level. Anyway, onto Oil Ocean Zone. This incredibly polluted level can be a bit of a pain to go through. I'm not particularly a fan of these placement of these seahorse badniks. They can easily ambush you by surprise. Another example of cheap enemy placement in this game. If you're good enough, you can actually travel beneath the level along this oily water, though I can never pull it off. This area is a disaster waiting to happen. One explosion can burst the area into flames. I have no idea how we made it out of there. Next is, oh boy, Metropolis Zone. This level right here is probably the lowest point in the game for most people, all because of the Batniks here and their cheap placements as well. Getting hit here feels inevitable. Not to mention, this is the only zone to feature 3 acts instead of the regular 2. The reason for this is because originally, Act 3 was supposed to be the scrap zone called Genocide City Zone, also known as Cyber City. That's quite the name. They had to cancel it due to time constraints, so they added an extra act in this level. I honestly don't find this level too bad since I'm used to playing it over and over again. But I can't excuse the poor enemy placement here, these slicers can kiss my butt. We're nearing the end here. In Sky Chase Zone, we have to chase after Eggman's flying fortress using Sonic's plane, the Tornado. Pretty simple level, and it only takes a couple of minutes to finish. It's all scripted, and it auto-scrolls, though I've never really been a fan of these types of levels in future games. They reuse this in games like Adventure, Unleashed, Mania, and Sonic 4, but I feel like they usually overstay their welcome. At least this level is short, and the music is nice. As we land in Wing Fortress Zone, Tails' plane crashes, and we are forced to do this level alone. Not a bad level, though it's really easy to fall off here. You can see Eggman's name on the plane, even though he's called Robotnik in the West. I've always preferred the name Eggman anyway. As we beat the boss here, we have to chase Eggman once again until we have our final confrontation at the Death Egg. I wonder what this area is named after. This zone has its own music, though if you move a few steps, then it will just play the boss music, which is a shame. I like this track and wouldn't mind playing a full level of this zone. Guess we'll have to wait until Sonic 3. We'll have to fight Eggman's robot Mecha Sonic first. And I'm making this way easier than it looks. You have no rings in this zone, and it's so easy to die here. After he's been defeated, then we have to fight the final boss, the Death Egg Robot. I struggle with this boss a lot. You have to hit him in just the right time just to damage him. You can easily mess up. Sometimes I even go through his body and die to him. Though if you try hard enough, then you can defeat him. The base explodes and Sonic escapes the Death Egg. If you manage to have all the Chaos Emeralds, then you'll fly across as Super Sonic. If you don't, then Tails rescues you as you fall. Honestly, I prefer this ending over the good ending. It goes to show how much you can depend on your little buddy to be there for you. You've come a long way, Miles. And that's Sonic 2. So what else does this game have to offer? This is one of the first Sonic games that features competitive multiplayer. I mean, sure, you can have a buddy accompany you during your single-player adventure, but you can actually race and compete against them as well. You can race in zones such as Emerald Hill, Casino Night, and Mystic Cave Zone. They each have their own music track not used in the main game as well. You can also challenge each other to see who can get the most rings in a special stage. Though honestly, who would want to play that? I had a lot of fun memories playing the multiplayer with my siblings, though it can get kind of hectic whenever we get items that swap each other's places. You can also play as Knuckles in certain ports of this game. Originally, you were supposed to lock on Sonic 2 on the Sonic & Knuckles cartridge on the Genesis in order to gain the ability to play as him. He pretty much plays the same, except he can glide and climb up walls, but his jump is not as high. It can make certain zones or bosses a bit more difficult. If you play the mobile version, you can probably notice a few interesting differences. For one, this game runs much better than the original. You can definitely notice it during the game's special stages. Though I've had a few issues with this port, the touch controls can be a bit difficult, but just a reminder that you can use a Bluetooth controller instead if you wish. Though for some reason, I always get pop-up in certain levels like Chemical Plant. Also, for some reason, Sonic doesn't completely leave the screen at the end of Act 1. Yeah, keep moonwalking there, buddy. I don't know if it's just a bug or my phone or something, because it wasn't always like this from what I can remember. But I still think it's worth it despite these issues. Remember that jetted spike pit from Mystic Cave Zone Act 2? If you fall into it, then you can access a bonus level that was scrapped until the release of this updated mobile port. It's called Hidden Palace Zone. It's amazing that they managed to recreate a level that we thought would never be brought back again. It even has its own boss and everything. The mobile version initially had a level called Egg Gauntlet Zone. When they re-released Sonic 2 for mobile devices, the developers wanted to try something different for the boss rush mode. They wanted to create one zone with connecting platforming sections in between each boss fight. It was almost completed, but Sonic Team didn't agree with the change of direction or graphical style you see here, so they had to scrap it. What we ended up having was a regular boss attack zone. It served the same purpose. It features small segments of each of the zones and gives you plenty of rings and shields to help you complete it. But honestly, I wish they kept their original version of this mode. There's also a secret zone that you can access in this game as well. Bear with me here. When you start the game, select No Save Mode. And when the Sega logo appears, tap the 4 letters S, E, G, and A. After you do so, you need to hold 2 fingers at the title screen. Doing this will help you access the level select mode. If you go to the sound test and input the numbers 1, 9, 9, 2, 1, 1, 2, and 4, then you'll access debug mode. But if you then input the code 3, 3, 3, 0B, 10, 10, 10, and 4, you'll hear a ring sound. If you select Hidden Palace Zone, then you can access Proto Palace Zone. This secret level is based off the original scrap Hidden Palace Zone. It's really cool that the team managed to bring this back to its original state. So what are some other things that they scrapped in the development of the original game? We know about Hidden Palace Zone. You can even hear its music in the sound test in the final game. Let's take a look on the game's beta, known as the Simon Y prototype. Named after the person who discovered it, this was a well-known pre-release version of the original Sonic 2. According to an interview with Yuji Naka, this was actually a demonstration cartridge that was still in at a New York toy show in 1992. It was discovered on a Chinese GeoCities site. So what are the main differences in this build of the game? A lot of things actually. If Tails gets hit, if he's with you, then you'll lose all of your rings even though you're not playing as him. The spin dash was still under development, so it was only able to be charged up once, and its sound effect has not been finalized yet. There were no special stages yet either, and for some reason if you collect 100 rings, the game will play the Death Egg Zone's music rather than the 1-up jingle. Talk about tone shift. Yay, got an extra life! Oh, I don't want this anymore. This prototype also shows evidence of other scrapped zones that was intended to be in this game. We know about the name changes such as Dust Hill to Mystic Cave Zone or Genocide to Metropolis Zone, but there was information showing that Wood Zone was supposed to be in this game as well. This was a forest themed level and you can access some of its hidden data with a cheat device. Apparently the music planned for this level was used for Metropolis instead. I guess it makes sense since we had those slicer enemies all over the place. So what are some other zones that didn't make the cut? There was originally supposed to be a desert themed level and a rock zone, but due to the lack of development time, these were never finished. It makes you think though, what this game could have been if they were given more time. If it isn't obvious by now, I really adore this game. Despite being rushed and having trouble development, I still think the final product is something special. It may not be most people's favorite Sonic game, but it's one that I have the most nostalgia for. It's not perfect, it definitely has plenty of flaws. I love the game and all, but the level design drags it down from being my all-time favorite Sonic game of all time. The enemy placement from some of these zones is just something that I can't defend. Other than that though, when it comes to 2D Sonic, I believe I had the most enjoyment with this compared to every other one. And yes, that includes Sonic Mania and 3 and Knuckles. Time and time again, I always go back and play this gem. It's one of my comfort games that I enjoy speeding through as fast as I can. I never get tired of playing through this game. It always reminds me on why I love Sonic. I could use a snack. I'm in the mood for some ice cream. Aw, that's disappointing.